Good evening. At this time, I'd like to call to order the meeting of the Board of Mayor and Aldermen for Monday, September the 26th, 2022. At this time, I'd like Reverend Elbert Smith to please lead us in the invocation. Please stand and then join us for the Pledge of Allegiance.
Let us pray. Our Heavenly Father, we thank you tonight for your love, your blessings, your goodness upon us all. We thank you for this beautiful day. It's been a lovely day, and we thank you for it. We thank you for the privilege to be here, to be in this city. And we have been taught in the Word to lift up our eyes unto the hills from whence comes our help. Our help comes from you, and without you, we'd be of all people most miserable. So I pray that you'd be with the mayor and the board tonight as they conduct the business of the city. We pray that they would put personal preferences aside and just do what's best for the city and for the future. We want your will to be done. We want to always be a servant of our Lord and Savior Jesus Christ because, Lord, you gave your all for us. We want to give our life for you. May your Holy Spirit be with the police department, the fire department, as they go out and make calls when they put their life on the line for us. We thank you for them and pray thy safety upon them and protection. Keep them safe. We just pray, Lord, that you would be with us now and watch over us, take care of us, keep thy hand upon us. In Jesus' name, amen. Pledge the flag. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you, Reverend Smith. This time, I'd like to ask the city recorder to call the roll.
Yes. Mayor Noes.
Present.
Mayor Pro Tem Mathis.
Here.
Alderperson Almacher. Here. Berry.
Here.
Dunn. Here. Glick.
Here.
Wilson. Present. 7 here.
So we have a quorum, and at this time, we have a number of at least 3 proclamations to do tonight. And so long as my voice holds out, I'll read the proclamations and then ask the representative from that organization to join me at the flag. First off, a proclamation recognizing Public Power Week, October 2nd through the 8th, 2022, a week-long celebration of Tullahoma's utility authorities' year-round service to Tullahoma. Whereas we, the citizens of Tullahoma, place high value on local control over our community services, and therefore we have chosen to operate a community-owned, locally controlled, not-for-profit electric utility. And as its consumers and others of our electric utility have a direct say in utility operations and policies. And whereas Tullahoma Utilities Authority provides our homes, businesses, farms, social service, and local government agencies with reliable, efficient, and cost-effective electricity, employing sound business practices designed to ensure the best possible service at not-for-profit rates. And whereas the Tullahoma Utility Authority has also taken on additional stewardship of our community's information infrastructure through a broadband network providing internet, cable, telephone, etc. services, expanding the community and economic development opportunities. And now therefore be it resolved that the Tullahoma Utilities Authority will continue to work with bringing the low-cost, safe, reliable electricity and broadband to community homes and businesses just as it has since 1948, the year when the electric department was created to serve all the citizens of Tullahoma. Be it further resolved that the week of October the 2nd through the 8th will be designated as a 36th annual Public Power Week in order to honor Tullahoma Utilities Authority for its contributions to the community and to make its consumer owners, policymakers, and employees more aware of its contributions to their well-being and how it makes their lives powerful. And be it further resolved that our community joins hands with more than 2,000 other public power systems in the United States in its celebration of public power and recognition that Tullahoma Utilities Authority is good for consumers, business, community, and the nation. Ray Norris, Mayor. If the representative from TUA would want to join me at the flag. Congratulations, sir.
Thank you, Mayor, and I won't reiterate everything you said about Public Power Week, but I will just state a few facts about TUA. We operate 3 substations here in the city of Tullahoma, 200 miles of overhead power lines, 75 miles of underground power lines, 9,400 residential customers, and nearly 2,000 commercial and industrial customers. Now, the important stuff is Thursday, September 29th. We invite all the public out for free pizza, drinks, ice cream, bucket truck rides, a bounce house, and a prize wheel. So I'll reiterate, this Thursday, September 29th, 3 to 5 at our location at 901 South Jackson Street.
Thank you. Don't want to miss it. Our next proclamation will be to the National Arts and Humanities. That's for the month of October 2022. Whereas the Arts and Humanities Month is a collective recognition of the importance of culture in America, and whereas cities and states throughout their local and state and arts agencies will represent thousands of cultural organizations that have celebrated the value and the importance of culture in the lives of Americans and the health of thriving communities during National Arts and Humanities Month for nearly 30 years. And whereas the arts create a tourism draw to Tullahoma and contribute greatly to the economy, prosperity to the city and the surrounding communities, and whereas the arts are a national asset and should be available everywhere to everyone, and we encourage individuals, organizations, government, businesses, and diverse communities to participate in and show their support for the arts. So whereas as the arts and communities play a unique role in the lives of our families, our communities, and our country, we encourage communities to raise public awareness about the positive impact of the arts and humanities in their communities and lives. National Arts and Humanities Month is an opportunity for everyone to help encourage, to help charge public perception and promote the crucial role of the arts and humanities in promoting individual well-being, addressing trauma, connecting cultures, highlighting inequalities, and making our communities healthier and stronger. So now therefore be it resolved that I, Ray Norris, Mayor of the City of Tullahoma, by virtue of the authority vested in me, do hereby proclaim the month of October the 22nd, October 2022 as National Arts and Humanities Month for the City of Tullahoma. Is there a representative from the arts community here tonight? I believe we do have a community. Please join me at the flag. Congratulations. Thank you. And the podium chair.
Thank you, Mayor. On behalf of the Arts Council of Tullahoma and your arts organizations, South Jackson Performing Arts and the Tullahoma Fine Arts Center, and all of those that are involved in this, we thank you for the opportunity. Look forward to some great things. Ask your continued support during the month of October, but during the entire year. There'll be some great things happening at your arts organizations in the month of October, and for the city of Tullahoma, the 18th will be the downtown area arts crawl. And so encourage the community to come out, support that. Businesses will be staying open late. There'll be lots for them to see and do around our downtown area on October the 18th. So we look forward to that and look forward to a great month celebrating the arts.
Very good. Thank you. It'll be a great evening. Next, we have a proclamation for Fire Prevention Week in the City of Tullahoma. Caption for that is "Fire Won't Wait, Plan Your Escape." So with that, whereas the Tullahoma Fire Department and the City of Tullahoma is committed to ensuring the safety and security of all those living in and visiting our community, and whereas fire is a serious public concern both locally and nationally, and homes are the locations where people are the greatest risk from fire, and whereas home fires caused 2,580 civilian deaths in the United States in 2020, according to the National Fire Protection Association. And the fire departments in the United States responded with 356 6,500 home fires. And whereas working smoke alarms cut the risk of dying in reported home fires in half. And whereas Tullahoma residents should be sure everyone in the home understands the sounds of a smoke alarm and knows how to respond. And whereas residents will make sure that their smoke and carbon monoxide alarms meet the needs of the city needs of all their family members, including those with sensory and physical disabilities. And whereas the residents that are responsive to public education measures are better able to take advantage of personal steps to increase their safety from fire, especially in their homes. And whereas 2022 Fire Prevention Week theme, Fire Won't Wait, Plan Your Escape, that effectively serves as a reminder to our citizens it is important to have a home fire escape plan. Therefore, I, Ray Norris, Mayor of Tullahoma, do hereby proclaim October the 5th through the 9th through the 15th, 2022 as Fire Prevention Week throughout the state. And I will urge all citizens of Tullahoma to plan and practice home fire escape and to support the many public safety activities and efforts of the Tullahoma Fire Department and the Emergency Service. I'm Ray Norris. Member of the Fire Department, join me at the flag, please. And the podium is yours, and you might want to address your partners in the crowd and folks.
Thank you for this honor. This is the 100th year of Fire Prevention Week. Since 1922, the NFPA has sponsored the public observance of Fire Prevention Week. In 1925, President Calvin Coolidge proclaimed Fire Prevention Week a national observance, making it the longest running public health observance in our country. To my left, we have Fire Pup, and to my right, we have Safety Pup. Fire Pup has been with us for 34 years. National Fire Safety Council developed the Fire Pup program to make learning about fire and burn prevention and life safety issues fun, entertaining, and non-threatening. Fire Pup was developed to be a friendly and positive role model for children. Likewise, the National Child Safety Council invented the Safety Pup to give the same type of message to our school-aged children so that when we do our fire prevention talks, they can have somebody they can look up to and, well, really look up to over here on the left. But it has been proven to be a successful learning tool used by the fire prevention officers and police officers and teachers across the country. The Tullahoma Fire Department, like I said, has participated with the Fire Pup program since 1988. He was developed in 1986, so we only missed 2 years of not having the Fire Pup with us. Mr. Jim Griffith, our area coordinator for the Fire Pup program, started in 1987. He is still with us today. He continues to seek out funding through our local businesses to supply reading materials and other items that allow our department to have the tools necessary to educate students about fire safety. We thank our community and business leaders for their continued support of this program. We did talk about the Fire Prevention Week, October 9th through 14th, and Fire Won't Wait, Plan Your Escape. We also have a National Night Out, Lieutenant Phil Henderson has talked about, on October 4th, which we will have a lot of different emergency services at that National Night Out at Fraser McEwen Park from 5 to 7 p.m. We invite everybody to come and see some of the equipment we have and also meet some of the police officers and the firefighters that we have within our community. Thank y'all.
Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. At this time, I know we have a number of people who have signed in that would like to speak in comments from citizens tonight. So tonight, I would like to ask that you please restrict your comments to as close to 3 minutes as possible. We'll be keeping time on you and ask that you be respectful of other people's opportunities to speak. So at this time, does the city recorder have the names of those to speak?
Yes.
No, what's next?
Mike Stanton.
Yes, Mike Stanton, 311 Heights Avenue here in Tullahoma. Thank you, Mr. Mayor and the board for the opportunity to speak tonight. I served 3 terms as alderman for our city, the years 2008, 2016. I hope I can provide some worthwhile input pertinent to tonight's agenda. I'm here primarily to support Mrs. Jennifer Moody, City Administrator. I want to thank 2 outstanding citizens, Ms. Rosie Graham and Mr. Jim Woodard, for their support last week for Ms. Moody. Also, I appreciate the vote of confidence that a majority of the board gave to Ms. Moody's job performance at the last BOMA meeting. I want you to know that the department heads agree with you also. I surveyed our city's department heads who work directly under Ms. Moody this week to find out their views of her leadership ability and their professional relationship with her. I assured them that whatever they would tell me would be shared only in general terms. Their names would be kept confidential. I wanted them to have total freedom to say how they really feel in their evaluation of Ms. Moody without their position being put in jeopardy. 9 of the department heads responded, and this is what they said: top-notch, inspiring, excellent, upstanding, easy to work with, takes care of my needs, holds staff accountable, professional, reasonable, always been supportive, very competent, thorough, innovative, reflects our growing spirit, and courteous. The only criticism mentioned was her recent adverse reaction to criticism directed her way. But the same individual that said that said it's understandable why she finally reacted negatively given the barrage of criticisms which have come her way over the course of multiple bi-monthly meetings. You can bite your tongue only so long. It's time to put any concerns about Ms. Moody's work performance aside. She has so much support. She is doing an outstanding job as city administrator. She needs and deserves all of our support. I challenge each of you board members to do what you can to promote team building. This board has enormous potential. There's plenty of intelligence to go around. Mr. Mathis, serving his 4th term, has brought some stability to the board. But too often there are personal attacks which only serve to divide the group, delay the business at hand, and stir up turmoil. The board is not operating on all cylinders. Mr. Mayor, I would like to recommend to you and the board a one-day or weekend retreat to be scheduled where a non-biased professional who teaches board teaming building skills can work with the board. The board needs a positive identity. Such a seminar could unite the board and lead to more productive meetings. Disagreements are common for a board to deal with, but disrespect and personal attacks are not acceptable and inexcusable. Thank you.
If I could ask the audience, if you, it only delays our agenda with applause. We hear the comments. We respect all comments, and we can do it without the applause. Thank you. I appreciate that.
John Paris. I got it right this time. John Paris,
Yeah, that's me.
as opposed to Perez.
If there's no objection, I would like to pass and speak at the end and reclaim my time at that period.
Next.
Nancy Cheney.
I'm Nancy Cheney. A lot of you know me as Nancy Mulkey. I grew up here, lived here for 69 years. I'm here to speak a little bit concerning what went on at the THS meeting, the 6 o'clock meeting we had last Monday. Was wondering what has happened to all the questions that were asked at the 4 days of meeting at D.W. Wilson, and have these been answered in any way, and when will we find out if the map is redrawn, when it's going to be redrawn, when we can take a look at it, because a lot of neighborhoods, a lot of the traditional neighborhoods that are TNN optional have existed for a long time. I know my neighborhood in Hermitage Estates has been there about 40 years, and we're listed as TNN optional, which is traditional neighborhood new optional. We're not a new neighborhood. We've been there a long time, and we would like to encourage when you do put together your and the Planning Commission puts together what they're doing, that they exempt all the neighborhoods that are TNN optional, because they're already there, they're already set, they've been previously approved as R1 or R2, and already have existing homes. Our neighborhood, for instance, has restrictions, and no one is allowed to put an easement through their property. They're not allowed to put another home on that 5 acres that they have. We are in the city limits, and also we cannot subdivide our lots, so it's just kind of crazy for us to be on that TNN optional. It's been very concerning. I've had a lot of our neighbors have attended the different things, and a lot of their comments are listed on the Tullahoma City Board site. And also I would like to say that the infrastructure should be the foremost on the city's mind, rather than bringing in other factors, other apartments or whatever. I know that my daughter's a realtor, so I know we do need more apartments for them, but because of the infrastructure of a lot of the roads in town, like West Lincoln and Cedar Lane, I'm more familiar with that side of town because I live on the west side of town. But I do know like Avoca and Short Springs are both not in very good shape. Deep ditches, and my time's about up, but I would just like to say that I would like to see improvements and maintenance, and also I would also like to say that I support Kurt Glick and what he's done for the city, and I'm very much opposed to what happened to him as the
Thank you. Your time is up.
director.
Thank you. Next.
Fran Markham.
Hello, my name is Fran Markham, 504 North Jackson. Thank you, Board, for allowing me to speak to you tonight. I'm here to speak in support of our City Administrator, Jennifer Moody. I join many others. Jennifer's educational background supports the worthiness of her job. She has her master's degree in government affairs, but she comes to us with much more than that. Jennifer has a wealth of knowledge and experience in managing other cities much larger than ours. We are very fortunate that she chose to come to Tullahoma, and we're very fortunate that the board hired her. She has been immersed in industrial and commercial development since she arrived 4 years ago. Again, there's much more to that job than development and planning. There are many human relationship factors, bonds, deadlines, grants, and time management issues that are quite demanding. She does it all. We can and should take advantage of her expertise, her education, and her experience. You should take time to use her as your mentor to assist you in your newly appointed responsibilities. I think that you would agree with me that when entering a new job, there is much to be learned. Many of you on the board are entering with a learning curve as to how a city is run. You should take time to call on the experts in your endeavor to learn and do your job to the best of your ability. You should, and don't hesitate to call on Jennifer. She is our resident expert. We must learn to respect each other and the values that everyone brings to the table. I'm a big proponent of women supporting women. We all need a little boost along the way. Let's boost Jennifer as she tackles one of the most difficult jobs of this city. She did not get here without a great deal of hard work, enthusiasm for her job, and dedication to helping others in the city succeed. Just as you worked hard to get to your position on this board, women need to support women. I ask for your support for this most valuable tool in your tool chest. Please rely on her talents to the best of your ability. Thank you.
Thank you. Next.
Jim Woodard.
Thank you, Mayor and Board. I'd rather followed Mike Stanton rather than Fran Markham, but would have been it. But Jim Woodard, and yes, been a resident here since 1984, currently at 2011 North Jackson. I'm coming back up to continue to be kind of a cheerleader and a promoter for Jennifer Moody. I had the privilege of kind of witnessing her application and coming to our community about 4.5 years ago, I guess that's correct, and following in the footsteps of Jody Balst. You know, I get the pleasure of, again, some of your own experience. I had unfortunately, Mike beat me with 3 terms. I had 2 terms as a city alderman, so you beat me on that, Mike, but I appreciate that. So I've sat in those seats, and I've had a chance to look at city budgets and work with city administrators and the department heads, and I thoroughly loved that position and enjoyed trying to be a cheerleader for the city of Tullahoma. But I would like to remind this board that we're saying save Tullahoma, and listen, I'm really for some of the concepts that the Save Tullahoma is for. But I happened to sit on the board when we lost $10 million earning 17% interest, and all of a sudden we had no money. I was on the board when we had the talk and the direction of trying to merge our school systems with other school systems and get rid of Tullahoma City Schools. So I had the privilege of being up there in some pretty tough and difficult times when the city had no money. So when we are going about saying save our city, I really feel like we're in the best position we've been in a long time from the standpoint of city government and working. And just in case for those that may be watching by the way of television or may not even be informed as the city alderman, but we've had an increase in sales tax every year for the last 6 years. 6 years, increase on top of an increase on top of an increase. And as a businessman, I will tell you, having an increase on top of an increase is a difficult thing to achieve. And in the COVID years, I mean, we had an increase of even 5.5%. And in 2021, we were up 15% in sales tax collection. The reason why that's important to me, I happen to be still a partner with Northgate LLC and with Brookside Properties working with us. And we as a group have invested over $30 million in that Northgate project. Some of you may or may not know that kind of dollars that have been invested in that piece of property. That's one of the largest continuous building projects that we've had in a long time. And we're still not done yet, with Marshall's just opening, with Alta coming in, with Old Navy coming here. And we've had a lot of challenges. And I can tell you from personal experience, we've had to work with the city to make that happen. And so Jennifer and Mary and the whole city has been very supportive in trying to help us. Now, have I always seen eye to eye with Miss Moody? I haven't. I mean, I'll be the first to tell you. We've had a few differences, but we've also been able to sit down, talk it through, and be able to work out our differences. So I will always stand in front of this board singing her praises, and not perfection, but praises, because I'm certainly far from perfect. But I am here to support her and the city and all the department heads with that. So, Jennifer, thank you for what you do, and again, to our fellow mayor and alderman. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Woodard. Next.
So next up would be David Conley. Sorry, Cooley, looked like an N, Cooley.
First of all, I'd like to ask the board if y'all could sign my book with y'all address in it. The reason I ask that is I got a neighbor driving through my yard since April. On August the 31st, he had a trespass warrant signed against him. The next day, he drove through the yard again. But nothing's been done. I've tried to talk to the city. I've had Kirk Blick, Mr. Berry come out there and look at it, see the damage. But he told the officer that he can do what he want, when he want, whenever he want, anytime he want, in any vehicle, drive through my yard because of the easement. I understand there's an easement, but does that give him the right to drive through my property? I've got pictures of him got leaving skid marks in my yard. And he sits over in his property like he's the king of that property, that road out there. I've tried to talk to Miss Moody. I've tried to talk to the people on the board. Nothing. I've talked to the chief of police. He told me what to do. I did it. Nothing's been done. So my question is, what am I supposed to do to protect my property? Because the city's not doing nothing. Does this mean I have to get me a lawyer out of this county or out of this district that sue the city and the police department to get something done? Because like I told Officer Phil Henderson, he's making this city look like a fool. Because he told him that he can do what he wants to do no matter what. And I can't do nothing. Because I don't have no help getting nothing done. So I like to ask the board, what can y'all do about this? And I'm going to tell you something else. None of you are going to like this, but it's a race issue too, because I'm the only minority in this neighborhood. I'm the only one that's getting property damage done in this neighborhood, but everybody else is safe. So basically, I'm being harassed by a 73-year-old jerk that's showing his butt off just to prove a point to this city that he can do what he wants to do. But I can't get no help from nobody. So explain it to me.
Thank you, Mr. Cooley. We're just here to listen to you tonight.
Like I said, there's nothing going to be done anyway.
Next.
Chuck Dean.
Good evening. Chuck Dean, 419 Albemarle Drive. At the August 22nd Bowman meeting, Mr. Worsham stated, quote, "I want to caution everyone that when you speak on social media, now that you are elected officials of the city of Tullahoma, anything you say may be attributed to the entire city, and it may be a very, very dangerous thing for you to do so. So I'm going to ask, please consider not mentioning any kind of city business of any kind whatsoever on social media. That ought to be here in this boardroom or at forums that are appropriate for you all to address people on city issues. So I'm just going to caution you to please keep that in mind." End of quote. So I've looked through the Facebook pages of all the current aldermen that I see that have a Facebook page, and since the date of August 22nd, all but one of the aldermen has heeded the advice of Mr. Worsham. Over the last few days, there's been active discussion on this particular alderman's Facebook page and directly involving city business. So I'd just like to say I fully agree with Mr. Worsham's position on this, and I'd like to suggest that going forward, everyone on this board heed his advice. Thank you.
Thank you.
Mike Barnes.
I'd like to donate my 3 minutes to John Perez when he speaks at the end.
Okay. Jonathan Carroll.
Good evening, Board of Mayor and Aldermen. My name is Jonathan Carroll. I recently emailed many of you, I think all of you. Hopefully you'll get time to read that, and I'll save everybody's time tonight. I'm here tonight to ask for clarification on the hold on the ARPA-funded activities. I'm happy to see that the special session's been scheduled for October 10th and look forward to seeing that play out. While I'm very interested in representing Tullahoma's soccer community to support the improvements of Johnson Lane recreational area, I'm just as concerned as the delay and uncertainty to many previously approved efforts impacting our local community. This morning, I created a change.org petition supporting the Johnson Lane improvements to understand the level of support to this activity. As of 5:30 p.m. tonight, which is only 9.5 hours being active, this petition has over 230 signatures. Since the approved delay has had very little information or merit behind the hold, this has created many questions from our citizens. I ask that this board look for ways to increase transparency, integrity, and compassion for each other and our city employees. With the special session now scheduled for October 10th, I look forward to hearing this play out, as well as I'd like to ask the city to provide some sort of recording of those special sessions so that we don't have to fill this room with the 230 people that support these different efforts. And I'm sure there's many, many more of the other efforts. On a positive note, I would like to thank the many people in the city that have helped us get our soccer season underway. If you don't realize, we have over 1,000 people that attend Johnson Lane Fields on every Saturday for games. In specific, Dave Anderson's leadership has been impeccable throughout his process in getting on board here at the city. Jeff Dameron has been extremely active and helpful working issues, driving communication across the various leagues, meaning football, soccer, and all of us working together. Tom Foster and Ian Anderson from the grounds have been impeccable at getting our fields back to where they need to be. I know some people didn't like a $60,000 tractor, but that's the real mower that keeps our fields playable. If you don't realize, we have college players out there practicing weekly. We need these fields to be in the right condition, and these guys are making it happen, so I can't thank them enough. That's all I have for you tonight, so I appreciate your time.
Thank you.
Beverly Lee.
Good evening, I'm Beverly Lee. I live at 114 Fairways Boulevard North. Thank you for letting me speak. I also serve on the Tullahoma Area Economic Development Corporation. We keep the economy in our area growing year after year, and with Winston Brooks as our new executive director, I have no doubt that our future continues to be bright. On your agenda this evening is the reappointment of Dr. Lynn Seaborn and John Mccord to the Area Economic Development Board. Both were unable to attend tonight, but I'm here to talk about their leadership and how it's benefited our city. I have had the privilege of working with these gentlemen over 3 years, and during their tenure, we have witnessed some of the most incredible businesses move to our small town of 20,000. Businesses like Starbucks, Hobby Lobby, Publix, Marshalls, Old Navy, Ulta, Ross Dress for Less, Buffalo Wild Wings, new sandwich shops, and so many other new businesses like Enable Comp and Parkview Senior Living, as well as expansions at Ascend Federal Credit Union and TE Connectivity. As president of the board, Dr. Seaborn is very fluent in the workforce needs of our major employers, as he works daily on many aerospace programs under development with the Department of Defense. Dr. Seaborn is active in our very vibrant performing arts community at South Jackson and brings to our board a wealth of information and insight into county issues, as he is also a Coffee County Commissioner. This is particularly important as Manchester now has the only mega site, 2,000 acres, being actively marketed to industry and manufacturers by the state of Tennessee. Mr. Mccord is a longtime business owner, having worked with thousands of our citizens, families, and businesses. His counsel on the Economic Development Board is extremely intuitive, as well as his expertise during disasters. He has an uncanny insight regarding business resilience and development. He sees every single day what our businesses and citizens need. During COVID, they gave direction to our new executive director to assist in business retention. So rest assured, these two gentlemen will continue to keep Tullahoma strong and resilient. I also want to thank our city administrator, Jennifer Moody, for her vast knowledge of federal and state grant opportunities, for successfully bringing in millions of dollars to the city, and for her hard work and vision to make Tullahoma great. She shares these things at our board meetings. Since Ms. Moody has come to Tullahoma 4 years ago, our sales tax base has increased from $12 million in 2018, less than $12 million in 2018, to over $16.5 million in 2021. That's rather a large gain, even through COVID-19 and high inflation. Tullahoma also celebrated being awarded a AA2 rating from Moody's Investor Services, giving our taxpayers incredibly low interest rates. This is a credit to our city's very strong financial position and especially to good governance. Thank you, Ms. Moody. All three of these wonderful citizens make Tullahoma a great place to live and work and play. And I just want to say thank you for hearing me tonight. Thank you.
Thank you.
I think there's one more out there. And
I'll be added to the agenda, please, for just a minute or two.
is your name on the list here?
No, it's not. I didn't know I had to be.
When they're done. Sorry. Josh Palmacher.
Thank you, Mayor. Board, for hearing me. I'm Josh Almacher. I own the property at 522 Noblet Lane. Never spoke at one of these before and feel a little out of place. I don't think I'll be quite as eloquent as the speakers before me, and probably poignantly so. I'm not here to really pat anyone on the back. I'm here to voice displeasure. I'm here to make my complaints with this board. I'm here this evening to voice a few of my concerns regarding the fiscal responsibility and management of this board. To my understanding, there was a grant request on the consent agenda 2 meetings ago. Now, I don't know why this was on the consent agenda. I don't know if that's normal or not, as I'm not in your spot. What I do know is I'm a taxpayer here in Tullahoma. Each one of you up here are elected officials. Your primary responsibility, the primary reason that you were elected, the primary reason that we vote, is because each of you told us that you were going to be fiscally responsible. You told the taxpayers, you told the constituents of this city that you're going to take care of our tax dollars, you're going to do things ethically, responsibly, and you're going to manage our funds. But this grant request from 2 meetings ago, the entire consent agenda was subsequently voted down. But that grant request was still applied for without the consent of this board, without the vote of this board. How does that happen? This was 2 meetings ago. There's been a meeting since then. I've heard nothing. I've heard nothing from anyone on this board about this at a meeting. How is that possible? While I understand that it is a grant, and it was a grant for a park that doesn't cost any city money, if that grant is given to us and that park is built, that's taxpayer dollars for the foreseeable future in the maintenance of that park. That is my money that goes to that. And I voted for you, each one of you, to make these decisions. I didn't, Ms. Moody's not an elected official. I don't know her. I might vote for her if she ran, but she's not an elected official. I didn't vote for her to manage our tax dollars. We voted for you. Then we come to the next meeting, and, you know, we have presented to you on the agenda some work to be done on the gym floor at CD Stamps. It was presented to be the next phase of work to be done. Then, upon being asked about it, we find out that the work had already been done without board approval, without consent of the board. Now, I understand that mistakes happen. That probably was a mistake. That needs to be said out loud. That needs to be happening because this isn't your money. This is my money. This is our money. We are the taxpayers. You were elected to take care of that money. That is your primary function as a board. I want answers. I think we deserve answers. It's our money. I don't understand why it wasn't called out at that moment. I don't understand why it hasn't been called out since then. You're talking about taxpayer dollars misrepresented to the board as work that needed to be done that had already been done. In the amount of $24,000, that's fraud. Any way you look at it. Anyway, I just want answers from the board, and I want you to do what you said you were going to do when each of you ran. You said you were going to be responsible. You said you were going to be ethical. You said you were going to take care of our tax dollars. Do your job. Please do what you said you were going to do. Do what you were elected to do. Thank you.
We're back to John Paris.
I do have 6 minutes, correct? Not 3?
6.
Okay, I wanted to make sure here. For the record, John Paris, 95 Blue Sky Court. First, I would like to thank the mayor, the board of aldermen, the city administrator, the director of planning, the planning commission, and most importantly, the people who call Tullahoma home for this time to speak. I too am here in support of the city administrator. Her job is not easy. In fact, her job is very hard. At the last meeting, when it was over with, I asked her, I said, Jennifer, you couldn't pay me 4 times what you make to put up with what goes on here. Second, I'm disappointed in what appears to be a very contentious relationship among sub-board members and city employees and their willingness to use the board meeting as a platform for their personal agenda to achieve outcomes which only make the public very concerned about the city's ability to function and focus on what they were elected to do. Even I have acknowledged being somewhat confrontational and recognize that as human beings, we cross the line of treating people with dignity and respect. As the country becomes more divisive, to the point where one individual does not agree with another individual, they get labeled as, and you all know the words, slung, with no regard for consequences. Third, I would like to take a moment to talk about Dr. David Hume. Many of you probably don't know him or have never heard of him. He was born in Scotland in 1711 and died in 1776, the year we became a country. At the age of 10, he enrolled in the University of Scotland. At the age of 20, over 6 years, from 1731 to 1737, he wrote and published the Treatise of Human Nature, which I think is very applicable here. The Treatise of Hume's attempt to formulate a full-fledged philosophical system is divided into 3 books. The first book is titled Of the Understanding, discussing the order, the origin of ideas, the ideas in space and time, knowledge and probability, including nature of casualty, and the skeptical implications of these theories. In Book 2, titled Of Passion, he describes an elaborate psychological machinery to explain the difference or emotional order in humans and assign subordinate role to reasons in this mechanism. And in his third book, the last one, Of Morals, characterizes morals, goodness in terms of feelings of approval or disapproval that people have when they consider human behavior in the light of agreeable or disagreeable consequences, either to themselves or to others. I would like at this time to just read a brief quote from one of his books. He states, "A government may endure for several ages, though the balance of power and the balance of property do not coincide. This chiefly happens when any rank or order of the state has acquired a large share of property, but from the original constitution of the government has no share in the power. Under what pretense would any individual of that order assume authority in public affairs? As men are commonly much attached to their ancient government, it is not to be expected that the public would ever favor such usurpations. But while the original Constitution allows any share of power, though small, to an order of men, and I apologize this because this was written back in 1711, men and women, okay, who possess a large share of property, it is easy for them to gradually to stretch their authority and bring the balance of power to coincide with that of the balance of property. So, you may ask, why do I speak about David Hume? 2 reasons. One, it was a requirement in my master's degree in philosophy and sociology, okay? And second, it is the basis for one simple reason, that our ideas are copies of our impressions. Makes clear that it applies only to the relationship between a simple idea and a simple impression. So one could conclude that the Tullahoma 24th Growth Plan is as simple as someone's simple impression resulting in a very simple idea. While I recognize the hard work, time, and commitment that all of you have put into the Tullahoma 2040 Growth Plan with good intentions, I am concerned that your actions will deviate from those intentions. Thank you for your time. And the last thing I want to say is I've spoke several times, both here and at other areas. I think I'm done speaking. I said at one time, I was in the submarine service, we stay silent so others can speak loudly. My plan is not to attend any more of these meetings. You understand why I said these words that I did tonight, and I hope that you take heed to those words.
Thank you. We had a speaker who wanted to be recognized. I recognize you, sir.
Yeah, my name is Brad Holt. I live at 101 Garland Crest Court South over off Ledford Mill and High Point. So I just wanted to speak out against what I see as uncontrolled urbanization in the area as proposed by the current 2040 plan. And just basically wanted to ask y'all to benchmark some other areas. I was told that they benchmarked Franklin and Murfreesboro. And anybody that's driven through Murfreesboro at any time of day, it's real hard to get through there. And to me, it's there wasn't enough thought put into that city compared to the amount of growth they've seen. And I'm just worried that we're going to fall down some similar traps, like allowing high-density subdivisions on residential streets, like Ledford Mill. You know, it's pretty much a residential road with larger subdivisions in it. And I saw in the 2040 plan, they had a suburban high-density plan approved for out there. Now, I happen to know that that's not going to take place, but I just wanted to speak out against that and ask y'all if you're going to benchmark some towns. I've lived in Germantown, Tennessee, Madison, Mississippi, and Summerville, South Carolina, and they all had excellent plans at controlling things that I think, you know, most of the citizens here want to represent. Certainly the folks in High Point feel this way. So I just wanted to say that, and just also wanted to ask that, you know, I'm a business guy. I sit in business meetings most of the time, so I'm not used to seeing personnel or personal-related things discussed so heavily here. I mean, as evidenced by all the, you know, citizens that spoke out tonight in favor of one person or against certain behaviors that, to me, represent just personal matters. I'd like for y'all to strive as a team to figure out how to work together and not have that be so dominant of the public's time. You know, and in the future, if I want to speak at these things, this is my first time, I will get on the agenda and not have to sit through all that. But I would ask that y'all just figure a way to make that go away. I don't think the citizens want to see it. That's what I heard here tonight. So.
Thank you.
Thank you. One question for you, Mayor. I appreciate you running. I used to know you as Ray when we were on Mike's Dream Tullahoma Committee back in 2009, 2010. So I've been kind of out of city politics since then, so I'm a little rough around the edges, but can I still call you Ray?
We're here to listen to your comments, sir.
All right. Well, I appreciate that.
Thank you. Is anyone else that may have not signed in? Yes, you recognize, sir?
Bob Bates, 501 Marbury Road. I'll read this out. Each of you have it in your inbox right now. I sent it a little bit late than I wanted to today. I hope this moment would not have to come, but it seems like it has. There's no argument that the board has the legal right to terminate the city administrator's employment for the tenets of her employment contract. And there's no argument that an alderman has the right to bring up what he or she thinks are breaches of that contract for discussion by the board. It is also public knowledge that Alderman Glick has a $500,000 lawsuit against the city, which would, if he wins, cause the city to pay him for his termination as Parks and Recreation Department Director. Who supervised that process of his dismissal from the city? City Administrator Jennifer Moody, his former boss. That's it. What may not be publicly known is that Alderman Glick has allegedly agreed to recuse himself from any official interactions pertaining to his lawsuit while in his capacity as a sitting alderman. If that is true, Alderman Glick should say so publicly. His constituents want to know. City officials I personally talked to would not confirm this recusal position by Alderman Glick, although other sources have told me that this is indeed the case. So far, so good. Alderman Glick was also asked by Alderman Berry at the last board meeting, in the form of an opinion, to recuse himself from having anything to do with the employment or performance evaluation of the city administrator, whereby Alderman Glick declined to oblige and immediately accused Alderman Berry of being out of order, which was overruled by Mayor Noes. My sources tell me that this subject has also been brought up by other city officials addressed to Alderman Glick, but he has refused to recuse himself pertaining to that subject. Since Alderman Glick lost his previous city employment in a process supervised by his former boss, the city sitting administrator, Jennifer Moody, he should recuse himself from all official alderman activity related to the city administrator's employment or performance evaluation. He cannot claim a neutral stance on the subject. In office less than a month, Alderman Glick has already mentioned the word fraud vis-a-vis Ms. Moody's actions. Quite the procedural jump from just bringing up an item for discussion. This is absolutely a conflict of interest on the part of Alderman Glick. Therefore, if Alderman Glick insists on participating in discussions and/or votes about the city administrator's employment or performance evaluation, I will disrupt the meeting at that point and will not be seated until Alderman Glick recuses himself, or I understand that at that point, as long as Alderman Glick does not recuse himself, Mayor Noes will have no alternative but to have me forcibly removed from the board meeting room. I will not go voluntarily, but I will exhibit no resistance. If arrested, I will refuse bail and spend my time in jail as long as it takes to have my hearing. I will also serve any time given for this crime, of which I herewith plead pre-guilt. If this is how Alderman Glick wants to treat one of his constituents, who up until now has been a peaceful and actively involved citizen in our community.
Your time is up, Bob.
Who's never been arrested before, has never been fired from a job, who's a veteran with a top secret clearance and faithfully protected those top secret documents, then he can let me rot in jail. Hopefully Alderman Glick is not that hell-bound to get rid of his ex-boss, and he would not let that scenario evolve, but we shall see. The rest of Tullahoma citizens may make a judgment at that point about who they elected to represent them. If Alderman Glick has recused himself already as the receipt of this document, all's well, no harm.
Sir, please sit down. Are there any others who have not signed in who would like to speak tonight? I don't want to miss anyone.
May I say one thing?
I'm sorry, but your time was exceeded. Okay, if there's nothing else from the audience, we will move right along. And moving right along, we'll first go to the consent agenda. And with the consent agenda that's been published, I do have an amendment that I would like to offer for the consent agenda. And my motion is to remove item number 22-154 from the agenda.
That's not on the consent agenda. That's not on the consent agenda, Mr.
It's
Mayor.
not, I'm not speaking of the consent agenda. I'm speaking of the agenda that we're adopting. I have a motion and a second.
I will second that.
We have a second.
But that's
You said consent agenda.
I'm sorry if I misspoke. We're talking about the agenda. Removing. This is to be removed from the agenda, item number 22-154. And at this time, as chair, I'm going to vacate the chair so I can address my comments to this, move this to the chair, to this Mayor Pro Tem. And I have a comment to make about why I'm making this motion. So over the past several weeks, I've had many communications, emails, phone calls, and personal talks regarding our city administrator. All have been positive, while encouraging me and this board to never take any action that might cause our city to lose this valuable employee. My personal opinion is that our city administrator is extremely important to our city to continue to move the city forward. She managed the city's operating budget of over $30 million and grants of over $5 million, and the RP funds of $5.8 million, plus the city's capital improvement projects. So I have observed over the past 4 years that she has managed these funds very well. Ms. Moody has indicated to me that she wants to continue to work with this board to help accomplish the goals and the objectives of this board within the budgets approved by this board. A yes vote to remove this item 22-154 from the agenda tonight is a vote of support from Ms. Moody. For support of Ms. Moody to continue as our city administrator, I urge you to vote yes to remove this item from the agenda tonight. Move to Alderman Blake. I've asked that you be excused from your voting on this agenda item tonight.
Can I make a motion for discussion? Well, there will be discussion on this.
I will reserve any opinion on my vote for just things that I have learned since I've been alderman.
I'm directing that you excuse yourself from voting on any item regarding this movie. Next comment, Alderman Berry.
I second this as person. This item kind of had me torn up over the weekend, even just seeing it on there. I support Administrator Moody. We have not always seen eye to eye, but we found ways to work together on what we needed to do to work together. I think that the city of Tullahoma, as one of the citizens said, is in one of the best positions that it has been in a long time. We came through 2020 when most cities around us were doing poorly. The city of Tullahoma didn't just maintain, we prospered. And that takes leadership on behalf of the city administrator. It takes leadership from the department heads. It takes leadership from a board, and a board who sometimes we were dysfunctional. We still found ways to work together and work through our drama. I think that this item should be removed. That is I support our city administrator.
It's my understanding that the removal of
item number 22-154 isn't saying whether or not you do or do not support the city administrator. This item specifically says to consider approval of Section 9, Part B. It does not hold us to anything or one way or another, but what it does do is allow us to have a conversation in which we can make a motion in, which is very different than what is on the study session, where we cannot take any action in a study session. That is why I am completely against, for transparency purposes, this individual item being removed from our agenda. I'm also very concerned that we don't understand the limits of the Constitution of the United States. While you may be the mayor, with all due respect, there are clauses within our Constitution that protect Mr. Glick, some known as the speech and debate clause. There are clauses in our Constitution, and there is case law that has to do with the highest form of protected political speech. Just because you may not like what someone has to say, trust me, I've had to go through plenty of that, doesn't mean that they don't have the right to say it. And that is why the conversation should be had. And while I agree with Mr. Holt that sometimes it's unpleasant, the fact that we are kicking this can down the road and not having an honest dialogue, and the reason we have to do this in public meeting is not our choice. It is by MTAS and what they require of us per Open Meetings Act, because she is our employee. And while that is not fun for anyone, and I'm sure not fun for Ms. Moody, the conversations do need to be had, because if we do not, we are derelicting our duty as elected officials. I would kindly ask that you respect Mr. Glick and that he is a constitutionally elected representative of the people.
Please refrain from... Ms. Wilson.
I guess I'm confused because it was my understanding from the conversation that I had with the city attorney about this matter that this item was added to the agenda because Ms. Moody was wanted to put her resignation in. And I thought that the city attorney got all of, contacted each one of us as aldermen to see if that was acceptable. And I thought that the vote that we're voting on right now was the severance package that was come up with. So I'm a little caught off guard here. And another thing I'd like to address as well is that, and I'm glad that someone brought this up, Mr. Dean, because I have expressed to the city attorney about how much that I respect the fact that he stood up on our first session together to talk about not airing the business of the city on social media. And I feel like that
Point of order. Have to stay on topic. We must stay on topic. Must stay on topic.
This is about the topic.
We are. And so the point is for this to be on or off the agenda. The motion is to remove this item from the agenda.
Right, but what I'm saying is that am I under the wrong impression? Because my impression is that it's on the agenda to discuss the severance package of the resignation.
As I stated in my comments.
Mr. Worsham, am I incorrect in what I was told? Because it seems like some of us have different information.
Ms. Moody has indicated that she wants to remain on this in employment of the city, and that she wants to help this board accomplish the goals of this city, working with each one of us on this board. So that is what I'm asking, that motion. The motion is to remove that item from the agenda. This
doesn't seem transparent to me because and this is why that I was bringing up social media, because it seems that some of us have different information.
Social media is not a subject for discussion.
Okay, but as it pertains to, I thought that we were making the vote, that this item was not about any sort of termination. I hope that the public is not misinformed about that, because who put this on the agenda?
I put that on the agenda with the concurrence of Ms. Moody a week ago. Ms. Moody has indicated that she wants to remain in this position and work with this board.
Point of order, this would be in the discussion that we should have under the item.
You're out of order.
No, actually, I'm correct.
So I guess what has happened here, though, is that the public thinks that one of the aldermen has put this on the agenda to terminate Ms. Moody. That is the farthest from the truth. My attempts have only ever been to discuss the inappropriate behavior that I have received, which I've never been able to do, which is why that everybody seems to think that, and I can't speak for everyone, but I've had nothing but a professional relationship with everyone here.
This is a motion to remove item 22-154 from the agenda. Keep your comments to that topic.
Okay, so but this was to discuss a severance package. So all of us have already agreed that on the termination. I mean, not the termination. Excuse me, of the resignation. So now what this agenda item was to vote on the severance package.
This item is to vote on the removal of that item from discussion tonight. That's what this is about, is to remove this item. We're setting the agenda now. That's all we're doing, is setting the agenda.
Has there ever been a case where an employee has put in a resignation in which was, and then can come back after?
No one has resigned. No one has resigned.
But this motion was for the severance package.
No, it was not.
It's not a debate.
Okay, I guess I'm incorrect then.
Move on to Alderman Dunn.
I will agree with Alderman Amacher that a vote to approve of removing this item is not necessarily in support of Ms. Moody. So I will also vote to remove this item, but we have to move much further past this. This cannot be just a symbolic gesture. This board must move forward in providing a safe place to work for all its employees.
I'll move on to Alderman Mathis.
Finally got it, didn't you? That's good. Wow. Initially, before I came in here, I had looked at everything, and I was going to probably vote to yes. In other words, I was going to vote for us to leave it on the agenda. And the reason being was I just wanted to take the time, and you're right about that. You know, what I understood, this was going to be not termination at all, and I wasn't going to be for that. It was going to be something that we could get down and talk to her and find out her concerns, our concerns, and the things that are necessary to make it better, make her a better person, us a better person. It's not one or two ways to go. You got to go both ways. We've got ways to go, she's got ways to go, and that's why I was going to go that way. Now, I'm not real sure I'll do that. I think I'll stay the other way. And because this right here, this terminology is just to be removed, and that's all.
I can still speak, Mayor, and I will speak. I think it is a healthy thing to bring this up on the agenda and talk about it.
You're recusing yourself from discussion.
I'm not recusing myself from discussion. I think it's a healthy thing that the board bring this up and discuss it, and discuss Ms. Moody and her actions or inactions or whatever, and our goals and expectations of her. It's like Coach Mathis said, it's not an item to terminate Ms. Moody. And Ms. Moody's said several times that she wants direction from the board. She said it's getting impossible to do her job because she doesn't have proper direction from the board. It would be a good opportunity for the board to speak professionally, give her the direction we expect, set the goals and objectives moving forward in a clear and concise way, and that would be a healthy thing to do rather than the other way. So I think it would be a good thing to leave it on the agenda. It's an item to discuss her resignation that she, I guess, at once tendered, as I was told by the city attorney. And all of us were, because he said it was unanimous up until today. I was, at 1:30 today, I got a call and said that she had changed her mind, I guess, but last week when I was called, he said I was the last board member he had called, and it was unanimous that we would accept her resignation. So I think at least we talk about it.
I'd like to recognize the city attorney. I've asked Alderman Glick to excuse himself from discussion of this item and voting on this item in view of pending litigation on his part that involved Mr.
I'd like to address all of you. As you all know, I talked to all of you, I believe it was last Thursday, after the mayor and I had consulted about the situation. He indicated to me that Ms. Moody was considering offering to resign under certain circumstances, and would I contact the board to see if they would be willing to entertain such a matter. So I called all the members of the board, and I can't remember, I didn't start alphabetically, I got the ones that I could, one at a time, and discussed that with them, and all of you indicated that you'd be willing to discuss that matter. So I told the mayor that, and the matter was on the agenda for tonight. Since that time, the mayor and I talked this morning, and he indicated to me that he talked with Mrs. Moody, and she did not wish to consider that at this time. So that I emailed all of you today and told you that the matter was not under consideration any longer because Ms. Moody was not willing to consider that any longer. I didn't call Mr. Glick, he called me, and I called him back. Pardon, Mr. Glick, I didn't call you, called me. And I explained to him the situation. And I talked to Ms. Dunn the other night about that as well. I talked to the mayor about it today. I've never talked to Mrs. Moody about this. All of my dealings have been with the mayor, who's been consulting with Ms. Moody. It was my intent to do what the mayor thought was appropriate in relationship to his conversation with Ms. Moody, and that's what I've done. If the board wishes to not discuss this matter tonight, that's your prerogative. I'm not trying to influence you one way or another. I personally have had a wonderful relationship with Ms. Moody. I have no personal feelings about this at all, except my interest in the best interest of the city of Tullahoma. Thank you.
Alderman Berry.
The agenda reads, consider approval of Section 9, Part B of the City Administrator's Appointment Agreement with the Board of Mayor and Aldermen. Part B talks about terminating her agreement, essentially the board saying, hey, this isn't working out, let's get out of it, you go your way, we'll go ours. And so I do agree with the comments, Alderman Mathis, that I think it would be a great idea, really, anytime a board changes, for that board and the city administrator to sit down and talk and get to know each other, and us talk about our expectations and her talk about her expectations to us. I understand that we are the superiors, but we are also managers. So we're elected officials. That is one of our duties. We have another obligation to be managers, and with that comes an obligation to treat our employee with respect, the exact same respect that we expect and demand out of her, and that has not happened. That has not happened for some time. I second in this because I am not willing to consider the termination of this agreement. I don't even want to talk about terminating this agreement, because I want her to stay right where she is, because I think that it is best for the city of Tullahoma. And as Josh Almacher pointed out in his speech, we were elected to do what we feel is in the best interest of the city of Tullahoma. And I'm doing that, and that is why I will vote yes to remove this item.
So the discussion, a lot of what's being said is what actually should be being said in the discussion that should happen under this item number. If we keep this item on the agenda, it does not lock us into making any sort of motions one way or another. But what it does is actually allow a forum for much of what he said and much of what Bobby was trying to say, for her to have that voice and for everybody here to express that, and then determine whether or not we want to consider approval. I have a problem with removing it on several different reasons. But number one, I believe that contractually, since this agenda was published to the public, we have said this is on the agenda and we are going to consider an approval, not approve something, but a consideration. And if we just, it would be the same thing as if Ms. Moody or the mayor put an item on the agenda and said, you know, I'm not sure I still want to do this project. Should we remove it from the agenda? And really, you shouldn't remove it from the agenda. You should get down to that project and then have a discussion and then determine, okay, we don't want to move forward with that project, okay? And that may very well be the case. However, you have contractually obligated yourself with the publishing of this agenda to have the conversation. It's a consideration. It's a consideration. So she wants to change her mind now. That's fine, but have we thought about the indemnity? Have we thought about the fact that, you know, there have been threats? She has made threats to sue.
Point of order, Mayor. If the alderman is going to make that accusation, then she needs to produce something
We were called into an executive session about, I'm sorry, but at this point, put it on.
Point of order, one, she just said on record that she's disclosing what was talked about in an executive session. That is on camera.
Well, you talk about it on Facebook all the time.
Point of order, that is out of order.
Get your gavel, please.
Please restrict your comments to the items for discussion.
My point is, we have to think about the city and
Call the question, please.
what we need to do. I'm in the middle of speaking.
At this point, we'll call the question.
Shall the question be called?
Question shall be called.
No, shall the question.
Shall the question be called?
All those in favor, you need two-thirds. You need a two-thirds vote of everybody to call the question.
Shall we stop discussion?
Stop discussion. We're going to vote to call the question. This is only to call the question. You vote green to call the question.
So I'm sorry, green for what?
Green to call the question.
They cut me off. Vote green if you want me to hush. And
So green to keep the item on?
No, green is to simply call the question.
Discussion. Stop discussion, continue. Yes to stop, no to keep going.
She was asking what it meant.
Fails.
Continue discussing.
We continue your discussion.
So, I can continue my discussion. Okay, well, I forgot what I was saying. I'm sorry. I didn't understand, I guess, that when Mr. Worsham called us on Thursday, as he just disclosed, that everything that he told us in that conversation, that then, it was my understanding that that would then just become public knowledge because it was being published here on our agenda. And my apologies if that's not the case, but, I mean, we've read it all over Facebook all weekend, so I assumed that that was the case.
Just on my pardon just a moment, if I could. None of this was going to be public knowledge. I did this call.
You all and contacted you all because the Sunshine Law would allow us not to have a meeting about it, and that is a valid way for me to submit information to the board. And I simply submitted that information to you. I shared it with no one but the mayor. That's all. It was not public knowledge. I have discussed this with no one else at all.
And that's fine. I'm not saying, yeah, no. Forgive me.
I just want to clarify that.
Right, no, forgive me, but maybe I'm misspeaking. I'm assuming that with it being on our agenda, it's not something that is only for executive session at this point, is what I'm trying to say. So it was my understanding that not only had she offered her resignation, but she was going to indemnify the city and hold us harmless, and we would not disparage her, and she would not disparage us. That is what I'm talking about. Now, if you look at other lawsuits in different territories, one of the things that could happen now is if she's already feeling like we are mistreating her. And I hate that. I really do.
Just address the chair.
If she's already feeling that way, and we are a board that we are elected, we can't quit, okay? Then we should do what is best for the city and how we can best do our jobs and effectively accomplish the goals of the city. And I'm worried that it will just create more conflict going forward if we don't at least have the open, honest discussions that we need to have. And I think that's what you're asking for. You want us to.
Alderman Wilson, do you have any other comments?
Yes, I was elected. I ran solely on transparency, openness, and honesty in our government. That's why I ran. And I feel like that I have been silenced at every turn of the road. I have requested help from you, Mayor Noes, and from our city attorney about the harassment I've received from Ms. Moody. I didn't come into this with any preconception. I've met her countless times before I was elected, and I always had a great experience with her. And I have received no help whatsoever. And I feel like that there's no transparency here if something's added to the agenda and we can't discuss it. Especially when some of us go out of their way on social media to spin the story.
Fourth or fifth time, point of order, this is the fourth or fifth time that she has said that. Can I ask her to say exactly what it is that I said? Instead of just saying he went to social media.
Inappropriate.
Instead of saying, if she's going to make that accusation, I would like for her to specifically.
Social media is not the subject for discussion. Please restrict your comments. We'd like to get your comments strictly confined to the motion to remove this from the agenda. That's the only thing we're discussing right now is to take it off the agenda. Alderman Dunn.
This is not a good meeting right now. This is exactly what we've been talking about. This is extremely toxic. I just heard Alderman Wilson accuse Jennifer Moody of harassment. Mayor, we have to do better at this meeting. This meeting.
Yes. Okay, if I may. Every new alderman, Ms. Moody reaches out to every new alderman to schedule meetings with each of the new aldermen. that has been extended to every one of you. So Ms. Moody has not declined to help anyone. Every alderman that has served Tullahoma has always gone to the city administrator upon an orientation session and just laid out the goals that the city administrator has for the board. You alderman lays out, okay, these are some things that I want to accomplish. So these are the things that Ms. Moody has done for every new alderman that's come into this board. At this time, we have a motion to remove item 22-154 from the agenda. At this time, I'll call the question. Vote yes. And a vote yes to remove this is a vote of support for Ms. Moody to retain her. That vote passes by a vote of 4-3. This item will be removed from the agenda. I'll make one comment about removing this item from the agenda. I think it is very important for this board to come together in perhaps a retreat of some type where we can sit down and talk about expectations that we have as a board for Ms. Moody. Ms. Moody can come to this board with her expectations for this board. We can talk about the goals for going forward. And with that, we will...
Mayor, I have a motion to add an item to the study session. To add a study session, then, to change the date.
Okay, just a moment. I'll get to you. We will, with that has been discussed here tonight, the need for some time for this board to spend with Ms. Moody in dialogue to find out, to give her direction and to hear from her expectation for us. Alderman Ramacher, you recognize we're on the we're on the agenda at this time.
So I asked, per our board policies, rules, and procedures, that an item be added to the next study session agenda. It doesn't say study session agenda November 14th of 2022. Pavlov's dog would tell you you can't add something 3 months later and expect somebody to learn what the expectation was and what they did wrong. The item that I requested to be added should be added to tonight's study session agenda. I followed the board's policies and procedures to a T in order to add that. And it is inappropriate for that to be on our agenda as study session scheduled for November 14th. Also, the expectations that you are discussing, it is supposed to be done.
Can we make a motion and get a second and then have a discussion?
What is your point?
I'm trying to explain what my motion is.
My point is to make a motion, get a second, and then we have the discussion that she's trying to have.
Your motion to add something to the agenda.
My motion is to enforce the rules and policies of the Board of Mayor and Alderman procedures that we passed, and I want my item added to the study session because I followed the rules in order to add it to tonight's study session.
We do not have a study session scheduled for this evening.
Well, we should because I followed the rules in asking for one.
She's attempting to remove something from the last meeting. I had one in between then. I don't know what you did there, but from the last, she attempted to renew it when the vote had been not to have one.
No, that was a discussion on the agenda, but...
From the last meeting. You cannot renew anything.
This isn't on the agenda.
Just a moment.
Study session.
At the last meeting, you had a motion by this alderman to set something on the agenda. On the
new business
agenda concerning Ms. Moody.
And her new business.
It was defeated.
But this is a study session.
You tried to renew it again at the end of that. Alderman Allmacher, you tried to renew it, and that is clearly wrong. If you have something that is pending, then you go back and you rescind the vote that had been denied.
May I?
To do that. You have to renew that before you can do something
May I?
else. You're trying to renew again.
No, I'm not. No, ma'am. No, the study session is separate from the agenda, and it specifically says in our board rules and policies and procedures that we added. What I tried to add last time was to that agenda, okay, under new business. What I am trying to add, per our rules and policies, before this meeting today, I asked that we had a study session added. A study session, we cannot take any direct action. It is simply for study purposes. It happens at the end of the conclusion of our meeting, and it is set forth in how to do that in our board policies and procedures. And it also says that any member of the Board of Mayor and Aldermen may add an item to the study session, and then if it gets a co-sponsor, then it goes on to the following agenda. Okay, what I tried to add at the last meeting would have been an item of new business. What I'm trying to add now is not even me trying to add it now. I followed the rules and sent it to the city administrator under the time allotted in the purview in our board rules and policies and procedures to have that added to tonight's study session. And I'm being denied that, and it is it's a direct violation of our board policies.
No, it's not. Have you made a motion?
I make a motion to enforce the board policies and add the item to the study session tonight. To add a study session tonight at the conclusion of our meeting. We need to set the expectation now, not later.
We have a motion. Motion dies for lack of a second.
I second it.
You didn't. Motion dies for lack of a second.
She seconded.
Oh, yeah.
She seconded it.
I raised my hand.
She was raising her hand.
I did not see him. Okay, we have a vote. We'll just have a discussion. You made the motion, so you get to go first. I think you've explained what you want, anything you want to speak about, so we'll move around to Alderman Wilson.
I'm sorry, we're discussing now.
We're discussing Alderman Amacker's motion.
To have a study session tonight.
To add it to the study session tonight.
Okay.
You're going to have to establish a study session tonight because there's not one study session.
And I have a similar thing I'd like to add to at some point.
We're voting on, we're discussing.
Pass.
Alderman Dunn.
I'm going to vote no, but I would just like to remind everybody that we can't have a study session after 8 p.m. So I'll be leaving at 8.
Well, you can leave. Mayor.
Certainly vote.
Point of order. Section 2, Board Agenda 2.2. Board members seeking to have an item added to a regular meeting agenda may direct the city administrator in writing to place an item on study session for discussion only. Items must be submitted to the city administrator no later than noon on the Monday preceding the week of the board meeting. I followed the rule, and the item is not added. I'm asking for a point of order to enforce the rules that we have set. It shouldn't even be a vote.
Your rule on that.
It shouldn't even be a vote. I followed it. It should be on the study session tonight.
Either it's well taken or it's not well taken.
2.2, would you like to see it? I'll be happy to pass that around.
There's no study session scheduled for this evening. So I'll vote no.
You say whether or not it is, her point of order is well taken.
There should be a study session. I follow the rules.
Point of order. We're going around discussion right now. I voted that I will not support this since we don't have a study session scheduled for this tonight.
That's official misconduct.
You can't, and that's not going to go on. But you can't discuss it either if it's well taken or it is not well taken, and that is your decision. The council does not discuss it.
Please pass the rule around so everybody can see what I'm looking at. If you wouldn't mind just letting everybody look at it.
Your point is well taken. We will have a discussion tonight, study session beginning at the end of this board meeting.
Point of order, Mayor. I don't think she can point of order a motion into existence. I think we still have to. That's why I don't understand what her point of order was.
Shouldn't be a
Because we were having a discussion on adding an item to discuss adding an item to add a study session item. So my point of order is I don't think you can point of order a motion into existence.
Not a motion.
I think what she was saying was...
That was to the chair.
Okay, I am talking to the chair. I'm talking to the chair. Okay.
She was asking to put something on an agenda for a meeting which does not exist. And so she then brought the point of order about why it does not exist, because she felt she had followed through with the 2.2. And then that comes to you to say whether or not her point is well taken or her point is not well taken. If her point is well taken, then it's in her favor.
Then she can make the motion.
Correct.
The agenda should be corrected in that this was supposed to be on it.
And I have addressed your point of order, and it is well taken. You can make your motion to add this study session tonight.
She already has and seconded. That's what the point of order. That's what I guess I don't understand is she already made the motion.
Correct.
Alderman Wilson seconded that motion, and we were in our orderly in-turn discussions, and then she point of ordered to discuss. So that's what I thought we were doing, was discussing whether or not to add this, and we go through the discussion, and then we vote transparently on video on whether or not to add the item, is where I thought that we...
That's where we are. That's where we are.
And I think we were at Alderman Mathis.
And Alderman Mathis.
But is it not true that we as aldermen are not supposed to be involved in this?
What?
I'm just asking, is that not a mayoral appointment to what this is all about?
No.
Or is the council?
We all vote on adding this study session tonight. We vote.
Oh, yeah, we get on study session, but I'm on putting it on study session.
Well, that's what we're voting on, is whether or not to put it on the study session or not.
To have
The motion is to
put it on.
Is whether we will have a study session tonight or not.
You can have a study session. It's a moot point.
No, we can't. It has to be advertised.
Mr. Mathis, it's not, she is not the mayor's employee. That's the question he's asking you. She's not his employee. She's the board's. We're supposed to all be supervising her.
Who's that? Which one? Now, which one you talking about?
You have a motion.
Which one?
Can we have point of order? Can we finish discussing and when it gets back to her?
We do have a motion on the floor to add a discussion, add an item, to add a study session tonight, and that's all we're voting on tonight, is to add a study session. Alderman Glenn.
I think Ms. Ammacher's point was that there shouldn't even be a vote on it because there should have been a study session because she followed the rules to properly have it added on a study session for tonight. I think that's why she said a point of order. So if you said her point was well taken, then the study session should occur, possibly.
We'll have a vote on it. I can't read that.
Oh, you can't. Okay.
Alderman Barrett.
But wait a minute, I'm not finished.
Oh, excuse me.
I just wanted to reiterate what I said earlier. I don't know what anyone's afraid of here. I think it's, and even Ms. Moody was asking for direction from the board, and particularly last meeting, she felt like she had lack of direction from the board, and I think it would be a good thing, a healthy thing for all of our relationship to have a discussion on the board's expectations moving forward of Mr. and Mrs. Moody, and set goals parameters, whatever, to have a healthy discussion about that. It's a good thing, not a bad thing, and I don't know why we would be afraid to do that. It just really boggles my mind why we would be afraid to discuss the expectations of our employee moving forward.
But that's not what's on the floor. What's on the floor right now is to establish a study session for tonight. That's your motion.
Motion is to establish or not establish a study session for tonight. Alderman Berry, you through? Thank you.
Yeah, I don't agree with adding an item to the study session, and I think we're kind of candy coating here because the item that she wants to move is not to have a discussion over how we can better work together. The item is discussion of disciplinary action of the city administrator. So we're candy coating this by saying, yeah, I think that I agree. We 100% should have a discussion on our expectations and her expectations. But that is not the item that you're trying to add to the study session. And so I think that we do need to be transparent and forward in what we're, but this is no.
I wish to, point of order, I wish to invoke the rule that we have set.
We're in recess right now. We'll have questions, but parliamentarian.
This also says she's not reading the full 2020-22. If it requires, should an extensive staff time be required to address any item, the city administrator will place the item on a future board agenda for direction and discussion and communicate the agenda change to those requesting them.
You're confusing.
That's part of 2.2. That's part of 2.2.
Yes, you're confusing study sessions and agendas. They are two separate items. If you look at that 2.2, please, if you'll look at 2.2, it says, prior to adding any item discussed at a study session to a regular meeting agenda, the proposed item must have a sponsor and a co-sponsor from at least 2 board members, and then it goes items requiring research. So it's saying you have the study session, then if you want to take an action on that item, then you get a co-sponsor of the study session to add it to the next agenda. But any alderman, for any reason, go back to the first part of 2.2, can add an item to the study session. That's not an item to a regular board agenda. It's two separate things.
You cannot separate.
We did in our rules, and they were voted in by our board.
I have the rule. Right now, you're voting to have a study session tonight, and I'm not sure you can without proper notice.
They had proper notice. I followed the proper procedures. I emailed our city administrator and our mayor. I followed the procedure.
Alderman Berry.
I'd like to call the question. We're either going to do it or not.
The question is called simply to have a study session tonight. Vote yes to have a study session. Vote.
No, he's called the question, so you have to vote to call the question. Cut off debate.
That's correct. First off, we vote to cut off debate. The question has been called. Vote green to cut off debate, red to not cut off debate. And the vote is to cut off debate. Next, vote on the question. The question has been called. To have a study session tonight, vote green. To not have a study session tonight, vote red.
Green to not have, or green to?
Green to have a study session.
Red to not have.
not have a study session. And that vote is to not have a study session tonight.
Mayor, I have
Follow the rules. They don't apply to me.
At this point in time,
I'd like to add something to the agenda.
yes,
Okay. I'd like to add to the agenda a citizen, actually, Ms. Moody forwarded me an email from a concerned citizen about the contract that we had to lease the tennis courts with AEDC. And I requested for that to be added to the study session this evening, which it was not. Well, it was added to the study session, but in January of 2023. But the whole part of that was that the AEDC is considering demolition of the tennis courts, and right now the citizens don't have tennis courts to use, and I'm afraid if we don't push this up, that it will not be addressed in time. So
are you making a motion to add something to the agenda tonight?
To add discussion to the agenda of, because I didn't receive anything from Ms. Moody about the decision that went into the tennis court, so that we could, we need to discuss it. So
that item would require some research. No one brought anything to respond to a question like that tonight, so we would not be able to act on it tonight. It just takes some staff time to
but if we discussed it, then maybe we could, I'm just trying to move it along so that we don't lose out on the tennis court.
I think that question is appropriate that we take up with the city administrator and have her to delve into that and see if we can get that action item moved forward.
Yeah, hopefully we can do it quicker than January of 2023.
We'll certainly try. Okay, with that, I'd like to move to adopt the agenda as amended to...
Mayor, I've got an item. I would like to remove the study session item for November 14th, discussion of disciplinary action, because there's no disciplinary action to discuss.
Rules. Any alderman can request a study session.
Point of order, Mayor.
Which one?
Can we stop this yelling across it is a lack of decorum. If she has an issue, she can say point of order, which is the rules. So can we have that stopped? If not, I would like to address the decorum.
Yes.
Your point is well taken. Alderman Dunn.
I would like to remove the study session scheduled for November 14th, 2022, discussion of disciplinary action of the city administrator.
I'll second.
We have a second.
Point of order.
What's your point?
Section 8, Policy Enforcement, 8.1. If a member of this board believes that this policy has been violated at any point of it, the topic shall be placed on a meeting agenda following proper procedure in these policies and Robert's Rules of Order. Any member who is determined to be in violation of this policy or uses profane or indecorous language in a board meeting shall be fined $50 by 2/3 of the board. So basically, you're saying that my point was well taken.
We voted?
Yes, you voted yes to that. I would like policy enforcement. So who's going to take the $50 fine for not allowing me to add that item to the study session since I followed the rules?
That's not a point. Here's Alderman Dunn. You have made a motion to remove item number from the November 14th session to discuss disciplinary action for the city administrator. Call the question, vote green to remove that item, red for not to remove it. Green to remove, red to keep it.
Wait, stop. Can you repeat that? Sorry.
I'm going to clear the board.
Can you clear the board and repeat that we are voting to remove, yes to remove it, or green to remove it? Okay.
Well, I have a question first.
Question been called.
Did we vote on calling the question?
No.
Do we have to?
Green for removal, red for not.
Do we have to vote on calling the question? I was asking the parliamentarian.
Yes. But this is not called a question.
Well, that's what he said.
This is to remove.
No. Yeah, well, I had a question about it, and he said he called the question.
How can you remove study session?
Okay. Here's your point.
You are in the process of a vote.
Well, because he called the question, but I had another question.
I had already called the question. Sorry, but that's the point. Anyway.
So do we vote on calling the question?
No, not at this point. We're voting on the motion to remove item number from November 14th. Discuss disciplinary action. Vote green to remove that item, red for not approving. Green to remove. That vote passes 4-3, so that item will be removed from the study session.
Hey, you need something here. Mr. Berry.
Alderman Berry.
Mayor, I would like to make a motion to extend the rule. We're 4 minutes away from 7:30 and we haven't even gotten to the agenda. So I'd like to make a motion to extend the rules, extend the time until we have completed the business of the city.
You have a motion? Second? You have a second?
Second.
Have a second. Requires a 2/3 vote to extend the time. Vote green to extend, red for not. That vote passes 6-1. At this point, I have a motion again to approve the agenda
Can I get
as
hold
amended.
time for 1 second? Barry made the motion to extend the time. I did not get who seconded. Done. Thank you. Sorry. I was just
6-1.
Until they finish.
Yeah. Thank you.
Extend the time. Okay, at this point in time, we are ready to go to the consent agenda.
We haven't voted on the agenda. I'd like to add an item.
We did.
I'd like to make a motion to add an item to the agenda.
We haven't approved the agenda.
That's what we were voting on. You wanted to add something else to the agenda?
Yes, please.
What's your motion?
I'd like to make a motion to add a discussion of the board and mayor and alderman rules and procedures.
That's October 24th.
Not a study session, an item to the agenda, he's asking. Not. I second. Yes, we need to have that discussion. Yes.
All right. Yes. Do I need to restate it?
State it
Okay.
again for the board.
Say the motion for a discussion of the Tullahoma Board of Mayor and Aldermen rules and procedures.
I second.
To tonight's
Yes.
agenda?
Yes, please.
We have a motion to add the discussion of the rules and procedures for the Board of Mayor and Aldermen to tonight's agenda. Is there a second?
Yes.
Is there a second?
Yes, I seconded.
We have a second. Alderman Berry, you wish to make any comments about that? Ginger, you introduce the motion, you go first.
You're first. I just want to discuss this item because I think these rules need to be either thrown out in their entirety or changed drastically because it doesn't look like they're being upheld in their current form. So maybe if there's another way that we can establish rules that we want to adhere to, that we could vote on those rules and this board can do it. And also, since it's a new board, these rules were established by another board. It would be a chance for this board to establish rules that it wants to abide by.
Alderman Berry.
I 100% agree that this board needs to start abiding by the rules. That includes the cross-talking, that includes the yelling, that includes indecorous language towards staff and employees and towards each other. So I 100% agree. And I am tired of hearing Mr. Pegram curse and yell and say things out here.
You're lying.
Let's be in order. Please restrict your comments to the topic.
So I agree, we need to have that discussion, and we are on October 4th of 2022. It is now 7:32, and we haven't even gotten to the business of the city tonight because of not obeying some of these rules. So I do not think that we need to add that tonight. Let's come prepared and have that discussion on the 24th.
The reason we haven't gotten to the discussion that we need to on the agenda tonight is because this board, our mayor, chose to remove an item that was put on there by the city administrator and the mayor. I mean, this was a voluntary item. Trust me, I tried to add something to a study session per our rules, and enforce the rules, it's well taken, and it still doesn't get added. Then you want it to vote. Where in here does it say we get a vote? We have to vote to add it. These rules are not being enforced. They're only being enforced when you want to enforce them.
This is for an agenda item tonight.
Yes, so I agree that we need to have a set of rules that we go forward with right now, and I believe that every alderman ought to be able to add whatever they want to an agenda. I'll say that.
Alderman Wilson.
I will agree that we certainly need to look at the rules, because as they stand right now, I too followed the rules to put something on to this study session, to this agenda, the rules to the T. And my item wasn't put on to the study session until January of 2023. And so they definitely need to be looked at. I feel like, yeah.
Alderman Dunn. As far as the rules and procedures, I definitely think we need to have a session on reviewing our rules and procedures. I think the appropriate time to do that is in a study session when we can deal with it completely and decide where the board wants to go with our rules and procedures, since it was a different board that adopted these procedures. So yes, I approve that. What I disagree with is adding it as an agenda item for tonight. I think it's appropriate that we have a study session for rules and procedures.
I think you're right. I don't think it needs to be done tonight. I think it needs to be done. Give us a little time to figure out what we want to do, how we want to progress with this, and then do it. And I agree that his motion is well taken. It needs something. We need to do it, but it just needs to be, let's do it right.
Any further comment on that?
I still maintain that we should add it to the agenda tonight for action. The action we could take would be to abolish the rules. We could have a study session to establish new rules.
Alderman Berry.
I have nothing, Mayor.
They would require, they are in the standing rule, and they would require 2/3 to rescind them.
Alderman Amar.
Yeah.
Alderman Wilson.
Yes, I'm not finished.
Oh, I'm sorry, I didn't hear anything. Sorry.
I don't think it should be added to a study session, because in a study session, we cannot take action. And right now, we need action. We don't need action 6 months from now on study sessions that should be had tonight. We need to take action. And this is just completely bypassing the authority and granting it back to our
Point of order, are we still talking about adding this item?
Yes. So we need to set board policies
Just yes or
and
no?
procedures that work. That wasn't a point. If you want a point, raise a rule. That's what this is about. And I did, and it still was not.
Go, move on. Anything else, Alderman Wilson? Alderman Dunn. No, I'll just reiterate, we all need to take a good look at the rules and be prepared to come to the study session and prepared to get it on the floor what we want to change or not change or abolish. So, all in that.
I agree with that.
Okay, the question is called. Vote green to have a study session added, to have an item for discussion of our rules and procedures tonight. Vote red to not have them tonight, but for a study session on November the 14th. Vote red to not have tonight, green to have them tonight. And that's 4-3 to not have them tonight.
Point of privilege, can we take a 5-minute break, please, and thank you?
I beg your pardon?
Can we take a 5-minute break, please, and thank you? Point of privilege.
Yes.
She wants to take 5 minutes.
Can we take a 5-minute break?
Point of personal privilege, and I think that's in order. We'll have a 5-minute recess.
Two passed, two did not. Two amendments. We've had 4 amendments. 2 have passed, 2 have not.
Excuse me.
Okay, with the reconvening, I believe we're ready now to approve the agenda as amended. I'll hear that motion. Motion from Alderman Berry, seconded by Alderman Mathis to approve the agenda as amended. Moving right along, we'll get to the consent agenda. The consent agenda.
We have to vote.
Please vote green to approve and red for no. That passes 5-2. Okay, moving now to the consent agenda. And on the consent agenda, we only have one item. That's good.
Man, that's good.
That's 22-150, the minutes of the September 12th meeting. I'll get a motion to approve the consent agenda. Moved and seconded. Green for yes and red for no.
Mathis made the motion, was seconded by Berry. Consent agenda, and we have voted 7-2-0.
There being no unfinished business, we'll move to new business. First item under new business is to consider approval of the reappointment of Dr. Lynn Seaborn and Mr. James Mccord, John Mccord, to the Tullahoma Area Economic Development Corporation for a term ending on August 22nd. You heard Ms. Beverly Lee talk about their credentials tonight. So any discussion? Move. We've got a motion. Second. Motion by Dunn, seconded by Mathis. Any discussion? Green for approval, red for no. It passes 7-0. Item number 22-152. Consider the approval of the replacement of 3 HVAC units located at Station 1 and Station 2 in the amount of $23,932 for the Tullahoma Fire Department. The details were on.
Make the motion to approve.
Seconded by Mathis. In discussion? Hearing no discussion, we'll green for approval, red for no. That passes 7-0. Item number 22-153, consider approval of purchasing 3 new patrol vehicles for the Tullahoma Police Department, totaling $114,258 from the Ford of Murfreesboro, utilizing the state contract pricing. Those details are starting on page 65. Motion to approve. We're done. Seconded by Berry. In discussion?
Whoever made the motion.
Done.
Well, do you want to go in order?
Yeah.
Wait, okay.
Well, I thought you wanted to.
She motions,
Yes,
I'll wait.
Alderman, any comments? Alderman Dunn. I would only say that I'm glad that we've got this item on the agenda tonight. We've had some discussion about it before. That's history now. We've got an opportunity to get 3 new police cars under state contract pricing. Thank you. Alderman Mathis, any comment?
None whatsoever.
Alderman Glee.
Well, this item, it could have been approved last week, but we were given incorrect
That's false.
or untrue information.
No, that's not true.
That's not.
Yeah, you're interrupting me.
I am.
So don't interrupt me. Is that proper for her to interrupt me?
As long as everybody buys into it. No, it's not in order for her to interrupt you, no.
Okay, as long as everybody buys into it. Okay. Anyway, so we were given incorrect information about the police cars. It could have been last time the state contract pricing was in effect. I think there was a lot of discussion about it, and I thought it seemed strange at the time, so I investigated it and found out the state contract pricing was valid from July 1st of this year, and it's good until December 31st of 2023, so it's good for 18 months. Ford of Murfreesboro had ordered 300 of the vehicles just to be prepared, and the as you turn in your purchase order, you'd get in line as they were delivered to Fort of Murfreesboro to be able to get them. So it would have put us a little higher up in the pecking order. Hopefully there hasn't been too many come in since then. There was 60 when I was at Fort of Murfreesboro in line and ahead of us. So, but anyway, like I was saying, it's been difficult to do our job as aldermen if we are not receiving truthful or timely or correct information.
It's inappropriate. Alderman Berry.
That's not inappropriate.
We could have purchased these vehicles and been in line on August 22nd, 5 weeks ago, when the item was initially on the agenda.
Consent agenda.
Didn't you just say it was inappropriate for her to interrupt?
She said if everyone buys in.
I don't buy in.
Okay.
I buy in.
So this was, and I get it was on the consent agenda because somebody said we needed to have more discussion. The proper way to do that is to pull it off the consent agenda and have that discussion. There's no issues with transparency because every bit of that information was in our board packet that evening. It wasn't hiding anything from the public because every bit of that, the exact same information was in the board packet that evening. So transparency is not a reason. The reasons that were given was we don't have time to discuss these items tonight, which I think they would probably object to. To make a point was one of the reasons stated that night.
Point of order, relevance to this specific.
What's your point?
My point is...
What's her point?
Yes.
Sorry.
My point is what he's talking about is why we didn't vote yes to the consent agenda, not why we are voting for the police cars.
Your point is not well taken. Go ahead, Alderman Berry.
And I make that point because the alderman here is trying to place all the blame on the city administrator when that blame lies, and I'm a part of this board, so I will eat that blame as well because I should have been better prepared and looked at that and thought, I think that they're going to pull the consent agenda. So I will eat that blame from our police department as much as everybody else. Let's get this. All that matters is that we say yes to this and get the item done and get it off our plate.
Transparency. I feel like I'm living in the twilight zone tonight. And maybe I am. I might be out in left field, but I don't think it's transparent when it was not in our agenda that the 3 that we purchased last year we still don't have, and that there's a light bar issue. So I do still have some concerns about making another, $100,000 plus expenditure. When will we be getting these? When will they be available for use? Can we use our old light bars for these? I mean, what's the timeline on this? And, if we still don't have the ones from last year, are we going to just order 3 more and have, now, almost $300,000 worth of vehicles sitting somewhere waiting on a light bar? How do we prevent that from happening?
Okay, Alderman Wilson.
Discussion was meant for an answer from somebody, so maybe, Mayor, I guess, At
this point, I'm going to yield to the city administrator who has all the background on this issue. I should have yielded to the city administrator before the discussion even started, at this time.
Thank you, Mayor. Regarding the purchase of 3 vehicles last year, it's my understanding, and Lieutenant Henderson's here, I might ask you to come up and back me up on some of this if I say anything inappropriate, because he's been working directly with the dealerships and oversees our police fleet. But my understanding is we ordered the cars last year when they were approved on the agenda. It takes some time. We're not, just as Alderman Glick spoke to, when we give them our PO number, we're encumbering the funds, but we are not in control of the shipping date. and we're also not in control of the supply chain issues that are going on all across the globe, and when equipment is available to be added to the units. So our vehicles have been sitting on the lot in Columbia, but they haven't been able to get the light bar packages that we ordered. My understanding is that just as late as this week, we finally have one that's going into the garage to be equipped.
One went into the garage today.
Perfect.
One, if I can.
Yes.
When I was there, it's been about 3 months ago, the city of Memphis had 200 patrol cars that were at that same dealership waiting to be outfitted. And once they start, like on Memphis, they will do all of Memphis's vehicles before they move to the next one. Each city's cars are brought into the shop based on the date of their purchase order. Columbia, Dodge, can be a one-stop shop. You buy your car, they put all the light bars, cages, everything on them, do all the decals, so when you pick it up from Columbia Dodge, you just have to put the tags on it and it's ready to go. I mean, you don't have to start taking it other places. So, yes, ma'am.
So can we not use a separate vendor for the installation? I mean, is it necessary to wait a year?
These tonight, they will, I mean, if you vote on these tonight, they will be going to a different vendor because of this issue right here. I mean, this was our first time. We were told that they would get us in fairly quickly. And then once they got everything ordered, it's like, well, okay, if we go get them, we're going to have to start this over if we go to another vendor.
So what's this issue with the computer chips that you were telling us about last week? And also, why was the state contract pricing not available then?
So what I was referring to last week, remember that item was not on the agenda, and I didn't have Chief Williams or Lieutenant Henderson prepared to speak to that. So I was speaking from conversations that I had had with them, and my understanding from Chief Williams was that the way that he phrased it to me was that when the item wasn't approved on August 22nd, that our opportunity to order those vehicles would expire before the next meeting, which was September 12th. When I followed up with him, he said that that's correct, that Ford of Murfreesboro, the fleet salesman, Jason, probably the same person that Alderman Glick spoke with, he stated when we first called him about the order that they had to be ordered by September 9th. At the same time, I know that Chief Williams prefers Dodge Durangos. That is his preferred vehicle for the fleet. Dodge had talked to the state procurement office about rebidding their contract pricing. And because one vendor can't be allowed to rebid without all vendors being allowed, that opportunity was provided to all vendors. Dodge has gone up now $7,000 or more per unit, and that's why Chief Williams was recommending a Ford SUV. I forgot the name of these.
It's just the Ford Interceptor.
Ford. So the Ford SUV is what he's recommending. At the time that you asked me on the 12th, I didn't know whether he had contacted them to find out if they were going to rebid the state contract or not, but I assumed if one dealer has taken the opportunity to get more per vehicle, that they would as well. Now, fortunately, they didn't. They said that they'll honor the price that they offered us in early August. So we have the same information now, that because they decided to procure 300 units, there's additional vehicles that we can get in line for. And when we establish that purchase order, I think to your question, what you were asking about the light bars, we were already in line with Columbia's dealership to get the next light bars that come in. If we decided to change vendors, we're going to start at the end of the list again.
Well, that's not the information that I had, so I apologize. So I was just clarifying. I was told that we actually had a conversation with the dealership in July, early July, and you just said that the offer expired September 9th. and we didn't even have a board meeting until September 12th. So the state contract pricing that was given in July extends, like Mr. Glick said, until 2023.
Well, do you understand what I'm saying about the opportunity to rebid? So Mr. Glick didn't talk with the state procurement office, who was offering all of those dealers the opportunity to rebid their state contracts. So I'm not disagreeing that that contract you looked at probably had a later expiration date, but they were given the option to rebid it.
It was given to me by Ford of Murfreesboro. They said they would honor it. I think the confusion of them ordering the cars is they know basically how many they'll sell, so they ordered 300 unsold.
But we also had the experience in 2019 with Ford of Murfreesboro that we ordered, I can't remember if it was either 4 or 5 Ford Interceptor sedan SUVs, and they never came in. They had our PO, we waited, and eventually we switched to the Ford Interceptor sedans because that's what they had available on the lot. So again, to fully answer the question that you asked, Alderman Amacher, there is no guarantee of when the units will ship. There's only wherever we are in the line. Whoever's ahead of us when those vehicles come in, I hope their orders get fulfilled, and whenever it's our turn, I hope that ours are fulfilled.
I'm not sure that we'd want to, but do any places offer like used vehicles where maybe they had a surplus and everybody's tight on their budgets and maybe they're getting rid of certain police vehicles or downsizing in departments? Like, are there places that...
There was one that we were looking at. It was in like Missouri, Kansas, out in that area. I'm not sure the state because this was passed on to me from the chief. But they were getting rid of patrol cars that belonged to Highway Patrol. And they were getting rid of them at 50,000 miles, which is 50,000 highway miles. And the state finally turned around and said, no, you've got to stop doing this. You're going to break us with us getting rid of these cars so soon. So
that would have been a good deal, though.
A very good deal. Yeah. Oh, we were looking hard.
Keep your eye out for those.
Okay. Thank you. Thank you. And Alderman Wilson.
I want to apologize to the police department. There's a delay in getting your cars. I'm 100% will vote for the cars. And I just wanted to reiterate that the reason that those were not pulled from the consent agenda is because of the meetings that I had witnessed prior. And, you know, this is new to me, but the meetings that I had attended prior to my becoming an alderman, I had witnessed items not being able to be removed from the consent agenda. And there were a lot of high dollar in items on there that were very not popular from some of the citizens that had contacted me, and I felt like the items like that should not be included on the consent agenda because with transparency, which is what I ran on, I feel that it does a greater service to discuss those items in the public eye.
Okay, we're discussing item 22-153, Alderman Dunn. We do have an opportunity to order some police cars in the morning. The sooner we can do that, the better.
Let's order.
Anything else?
Nothing further.
Vote, call a question. Green for approval and green for no.
Hold it. Green for no?
No, green for yes. Green for approval, red for no.
Okay.
So green to order the cars, right?
Yeah.
Green for
order the cars. Please.
Passes 7-0. There's no other new business. The Board of Mayor and Aldermen will be adjourned. Beer Board will be in session. Any public comments regarding the Beer Board? If not, we'll go to the consent agenda. BB.
Move to approve.
Move to approve the consent agenda. Seconded by all in favor, vote green for yes and red for no.
Sorry. Dunn made it.
Second.
All right, vote. Everyone voted. Two more, John and Mathis. Mathis, I need to vote.
Jerry, you have to vote. Jerry, you have to vote. You have to mash the button.
Okay.
That passes 7-0. There is no other new business to come before the board. The board will be adjourned. Adjourned.
Jordan.